Manx Radio Sport.
Good evening, welcome to Friday Sport Preview on Manx Radio. Rob Pritchard and the team with you here for the next hour to cast our eye over this weekend's upcoming sporting action. So on tonight's programme. Last chance saloon for Marown in the Men's Premier League, and Corinthians with a chance to go joint top as league action returns in Manx football. After launching in late January, we hear from those behind a potential new force in women's football on the island. Meanwhile, FC Isle of Man are targeting back-to-back wins for the first time since November tomorrow night. Douglas and Vagabonds back on the road in rugby as the Manx Shield returns on island. And in hockey, there may be a break from the usual league schedule, with two of the island's national sides in action tomorrow. That's all to come this evening. Hello and welcome to the latest edition of Friday Sport Preview here on Manx Radio. I'm Rob Pritchard, the rest of the team also with us tonight to take a look ahead to the sporting action, football, rugby and hockey on the Isle of Man and further afield this weekend. We're going to dive straight into the footballing side of things because it's a busy old football schedule this weekend. So without further ado, we bring in our football correspondent for the evening, Tony Mepham. Good to see you again.
Good evening, Rob. Yeah, weather, it's just started. Shame really, isn't it, after a dry week, but we'll see how we go tomorrow.
Indeed we will. Well, let's take a look at those fixtures that are going to be taking place on Saturday. A reminder, no fixtures on Sunday this week due to being the half-term break across the Isle of Man. But before we turn to what is the return of the league action across the island after Cup action was in the spotlight last weekend, there is one fixture that was postponed in the ECAP FA Cup first round last weekend. That has been rearranged to this weekend, so we'll take a look at that. Earlier kick-off of 1:45pm, that's his Division 2 Governors Athletic up against Foxdale, Tony.
Yeah, well, when you look at it, Foxdale in the Premier League and you look at Governors Division 2, so it should point to Foxdale, and what's probably strengthened Foxdale's team as well is Lee Gales back in their side as well. When you look at that forward line that started so well at the start of the season, Jay Chatwood, Lee Gale, Jason Chalmer, it's going to be, I think, a very difficult forward line to try and defend against. And when you look at it, Rob, this is only Foxdale's fourth game since the 9th of November. So they've been lacking a little bit of football in that one. But looking at the two places where they are in their leagues, you've got to go for Foxdale to go through into the next round.
Indeed, we take a look at the league side of things. Back to 2:30pm kickoffs. A reminder in the leagues across the island on these Saturdays. We had, of course, that previous period of 2 o'clock kickoffs, slightly earlier due to the difference in light that are things available throughout the winter. But back to 2:30pm kickoffs. Let's look at the Canada Life Men's Premier League. 5 games there this weekend. We say 2:30pm. One of those is the early kickoff, Tony. We'll start with that. And this is the game that you're going to be at tomorrow for Saturday Live. St Mary's up against Ayr United.
Yeah, thanks for sending me to this one. Looking forward to this because St Mary's certainly have been playing all right of late, and United with that good win last week against Corinthians. How have Ayr turned it around a little bit? Well, when you look at the team sheet from last week, you've got Johnny Shields back in the team, Nick Hurt as well after his back operation, so hopefully that's gone well. But one or two sort of players been brought in as well, Anthony Murdoch, Mark Nixon, so it just makes them a little bit stronger. And with the influential Harry Best and Declan Cummins in midfield, then it's boding well for Ayr. But St Mary's, as we know, have got a lot of quality players signed for them. Just depends who's available. Harry Callan's been going well in goal. Sammy Gelling in midfield. Mark Wolfenden's had a fantastic season for St Mary's. Carl Clark, Joe Burquist. St Mary's, I think, will make it difficult for Ayr, but I just think with 1 or 2 players back, it'll make it a better day for Ayr United.
Just before we move on, looking at the table there's just 3 points that separates Ayr United in 3rd, all the way down to Ramsey in 6th at the moment, Tony. It's competitive in there.
It is, and you want it to be, don't you? And even when you look at Peel and Corinthians, Peel have lost recently, Corinthians have lost recently, so it's all opening up nicely. I know we're going into the next set of cup fixtures on the 8th of March, but at the moment it's the business end, isn't it? It's where teams want to pick up points, finish as high as they can, and also maybe play a part in saying who's going to win the championship.
Indeed. Let's take a look at the other fixtures then. So these ones kicking off at 2:30pm in the Canada Life Men's Premier League. We'll start over at Gary Moore, where Union Mills will be hosting a Corinthians side who, Tony, if they were to take maximum points at Gary Moore tomorrow, could go level on points with Peel at the top, who are on a rest week. Yeah,
and Corinthians, was looking at the team sheet for tomorrow. My word, there's some young players in there, and fair play to them. They're in on merit, and it's good to see Sammy Corkles back from college, and Joe Middleton and Joe Marquez will partner each other, I would think, up front in Ben Qualtro's looking good squad. But Union Mills have beaten Peel in the FA Cup, so they're cock-a-hoop this week. And Dominic McCarry-Brennan was tremendous last week. Alex Higgerty played really well, Tyler Hughes as well. But you've got to look at sort of Mason Prince's performance last week. Outstanding in goal. He's a really good goalkeeper, and it's going to be a really tight game. I've got to stick my neck out here. I'm going to go for Corinthians to win, Rob.
Very well. St John's United, they're going to be hosting a Laxey team who, Tony, are right in the mix. They're fourth in the table at the moment, level on points with their United in third, only behind on goal difference at the moment, albeit having played 2 games more.
That's right, and I think the talking point for Laxey is the new goal scorer that they found, Eric Hill, with 8 goals in 3 games for him, 2 hat-tricks and a 2, so congratulations. And you've got players in there who've done really well. You've got Greg Kelly, you've got George Partington as well, Ethan Hawley, Brodie Patience have found form again, and George Burrows is always working hard in that midfield. But St John's, Dean Lees is back from travelling, so that makes them a little bit stronger up front. I don't think Callum Taggart's available this week, but when you look at Luke Murray in that midfield position as well, and Liam Bull, it just means that they've got this big threat. I think St John's up front. Laxey will find it difficult, but I think at the moment Laxey are right in good form and they'll win.
Elsewhere at Memorial Playing Fields, a huge battle at the bottom of the table at the moment. Marown rooted to the bottom. They're currently 11 points, I should say, from safety right at the bottom. Just 3 points to their name at the moment. And Tony, they're up against Onken, second from bottom, but 9 points clear of them in 12th place. I mean, if Marown weren't to pick up maximum points now and in their remaining games, it's not looking good for them, unfortunately.
It's not looking good. And, when you look at that league table, look at the bottom 3. You got Sir George's played 17 for 14, Onken played 18 for 12, and Marown played 18 for 3. There's a big, big difference, isn't there? And, you just wonder how it will go for Onken, because they're a young side. They've got some really good young players in there. Josh Kenyuk, I think, will play. Tom O'Neill's in there as well. Andy Aspridge will get the goals. But with Marown, Joey Rothwell came in the last game, scored a couple of goals. Lewis Bruce in there, Matthew McQuarrie. When I look at, the players from last year, Carl Hartman won, and Charles Scarf is another one. They need to get amongst the goals. It's going to be so difficult for them. I think Onken will take the result.
And the final game in the Premier League this weekend at Croyt Lowy pits Russian United, who needed extra time last weekend to beat Division 2 leaders Braddon in the ECAP FA Cup first round, but nevertheless on a run of 4 straight wins up against St George's.
They are, and let's have a look at St George's, because I looked again at the players that played last week. You've got Chris Bass Jr., Ryan Gartland, Ashley Higginbottom. When you look at those 3, they were playing FC Isle of Man just over a year ago. So, there's a good team in there. Morgan Nail as well as an Iron player. Johnny Myers is still quality. But the man, I think, has really stepped up this year, I think, for St George's. Ed Canner is looking really good for them. But Russian made hard work of it last week against Braddon. And it was just one of those, whether it was the pressure for the cup. But Mark Blair, good goalkeeper. Jamie Cadwallader had a great game. And I look at the 2 boys at the back in Ashley Blake keeping things nice and tight. And Danny Lane and Aaron Hawley will cause problems up front. Russian to win.
Very well, that's Canada Life Men's Premier League. Ardern and Drugan Limited Division 2 moving on now, and Douglas and District home this weekend, still winless at the bottom of the table, just 2 points to their name at the moment. Been a right old tough season for Douglas and District so far. They're going to be welcoming a Douglas Royal team that beat Douglas High School Old Boys last weekend in the league as well. Douglas Royal, a bit of a hit and miss season since their voluntary relegation from the top flight last season, but Douglas Royal, will they see this potentially as an opportunity just to try and claw back some ground on a couple of teams in front of them?
Yeah, I think so, because last week they played really well, and what a great result it was. And when you've got players like Jordan Cowan, he's always scored goals right the way through his career, and he's still a young man now. You've got Craig Cowan in there, and they just sort of gel. They've got good experience in there. I know Stuart Foley's still playing for them, so that's why they're sort of holding their own a little bit. And I think the voluntary relegation is
2
one
very
of the,
different things.
Yeah, exactly, one of those things that they had to do, and I think that's what's made the club an awful lot stronger. But Douglas and District keep chipping away, foot of the table, played 11, only got 2 points. I think it points where it's going to go, and that's to Douglas Royal.
down south. This could be a big game at Station Fields tomorrow, Tony, because Colby, fourth in the table at the moment. They're just 1 point behind their visitors this weekend, Douglas High School Old Boys. Old Boys losing to Douglas Royal, losing their game in hand, so they're now 6 points behind Braddon in the race for the Division 2 title. But that now means, Tony, Douglas High School Old Boys in second, after 14 games, 29 points. Ramsey Youth Centre and Old Boys, 29 points after 15 games, so only behind on goal difference. Colby, after 15 games, 28 in fourth place at the moment, and then Castletown not too far away. Colby could go above Douglas High School Old Boys with a win this weekend. Looks like it could be quite an interesting, because of another tie that we're going to come to as well in Division 2 this weekend. This could be a big weekend for both Colby and Old Boys.
Definitely, and I watched this one at Bradbury Lane when it's played early on in the season. I thought Colby could have been quite easily 3 or 4 up in the first 10 minutes, Rob, but for whatever happened to them, they were scoring goals, but Douglas High School Old Boys just showed some class towards the end of it and got the result. And when you look at people like Carl Hickey's still scoring plenty of goals for them, then that's the big problem for them, Douglas High School Old Boys, to try and deal with that. Robbie Ward, he's not going to be there this season now because of his injury, so they're missing him big time. But there's still Jacob Stones there who could score goals. Martin King's back in from suspension. And I'm going to go for Old Boys, just maybe to sneak up, but only by 1 goal.
And the other important fixture with regards to that end of the table as well, Ramsey Youth Centre and Old Boys were mentioned in third there, only behind Old Boys on goal difference. They're at home against Castletown, who are fifth, and they're only 3 points, Castletown, behind Colby as well. So there could be all sorts of different circumstances depending on results this weekend. Exactly,
and I think with Castletown, it just depends what players play tomorrow. You've got Alex Crawley, you know what he's like in front, he'll always score goals. Nathan Cardy as well. So they've got 2 big hitters in that league, sort of gunning for the goals for you. And if they took the points away from Ramsey Youth Centre, then it really is a sort of advantage to Castletown a little bit as well. But, you know, Ramsey Youth Centre, I've watched them this year and they're really good. They've got some good young players in there, good experience to mix it in as well. And I think it's going to be a great game, and it'll be how they contain, Ramsey Youth Centre can contain that forward line of Castletown. We'll prove where it goes, but I think Castletown will take the result.
2 other games in Division 2. First off, Pulrose United, Tony, a team that you were impressed with their efforts last week, despite being edged out 4-3 by Colby in the ECAP FA Cup last time around. They're at home to Malou, second from bottom at the moment. They've only played 11 games, Malou.
Yeah, they have, and it's just a problem where, you know, their pitch has not been available at some times, and then the teams that they're playing, and it's just stacked up against them. But, you know, when you look at Pulrose, yeah, definitely done well, and people like James McGinn, who signed for them at the start of the season, they'll always score goals, and just right the way along the team, they're playing with a lot of confidence. But Malou, that was a real heavy defeat last week for them in the Cup, and I just feel at the moment that the players aren't available. Dean Kinley's important for them, and I noticed he didn't play last week, so I'm going to go for Pulrose to take the result.
And lastly, in Division 2, Michael United got their first league win the other week after that big exodus a couple of months ago. But it's a tough task for them. They're up against the league leaders, Braddon, at home.
Yeah, it is. And, you know, Braddon will be absolutely reeling last week to sort of lose that game. They had the opportunity, and not knocking Liam Kane because I thought he had a good game up front for Braddon. But, you know, to have the penalty in the dying seconds, I thought this is going to finish off fruitful for Braddon. But it didn't happen. But again, they played well. Liam Kane is definitely a threat for them because he's tricky in that penalty area. But I just feel against Michael United, they'll prove too strong.
Let's take a quick look through then the combination leagues. 5 games tomorrow in Canada Life Combination 1.
Laxey against St John's. I'm going to go for St John's to win that. I still think there are 1 or 2 sort of players missing, but they are stronger than last week because obviously players have come back into the first team. Onken against Marown. They're all sort of ganging up on Onken now, aren't they? Because you got Ramsey around them, you got Russian on the top of the table now. But I'll go for Onken to take that result. Ayr against St Mary's to win. Peel will play Foxdale at home. Welcome back, Tommy Crow. He's back with the whistle, and he's refereeing this game tomorrow. I'm going to go for Peel, take the result there. And Corinthians against Uni Mills, I'm going to go for Corinthians.
And last but certainly not least, on Saturday, 4 games in Ardern and Drug Unlimited Combination 2.
Douglas Royal against Douglas and District. We'll go for Douglas Royal to take the 3 points in that one. Old Boys and Colby, the 2 top sides, but I just think Colby are way ahead of Old Boys at the moment. I'm going to go for Colby to win. Jim's against Castletown to take the points there, and Braddon against Michael. We've got some good young players in there for Braddon to take the 3 points there.
Thank you very much, Tony. Well, moving on, this month has seen the emergence of what could become a new force in women's football on the Isle of Man in future. Russian United Football Club has launched a senior women's team, with female players aged 16 and over of all abilities being invited to come and train with them. Those behind the team have ambitious plans to build for both the short and long term. Well, this week I spoke with one of their coaches, Donna, to find out how much interest they've attracted in the first couple of weeks.
It's been brilliant. First session we had 24. A lot of those had never played football before. It's been really great because a lot of them are parents of the girls we actually coach at the minute. So they really want to get involved in not just playing, but actually the actual being able to know what their girls are doing and the understanding of it, and just to come and have fun and get fit. So, and then the second session we had 22, which was again a lot of people that some have played before, some haven't, and it's just fun at the moment. That's what we're aiming for people to come along, have a go, get fit, make some friends, and enjoy playing football and being a part of something that's actually, there is a bigger picture to it in the long run.
It's been debated over the last couple of seasons where the future, I suppose, lies with women and girls football on the Isle of Man, some of the challenges it's maybe faced. But for your side of things as a club, to see that level of women and girls getting involved at this stage, quite recently since it got set up, how positive and optimistic does that make you feel?
Oh, massively. I think a lot of things, unfortunately, are quite short-sighted, and people are aiming to do things now, but that's not how things are going to work. I think it's very much we need to look ahead, and that's what we're doing at Russian, is that we're building through the Girls Academy to then look towards actually them having a pathway through to the ladies team. But I do see that in many clubs, the girls' development throughout the island for clubs is fantastic. I think it's just that stepping stone now from the under-12s, under-14s through to the seniors, which I guess that's the little gap that we're trying to plug. And hopefully we have got under-6s all the way through to under-14s. And once those under-14s obviously go up to under-15s, under-16s, then there will be a clear pathway. But there is so much positive things happening in all the clubs on the island and it's fantastic to see. It's just going to take time, that's all.
And over the last few years, of course, across the world, really, we've seen more exposure and more showcasing of the women's game. So to be opening, I suppose, as a club, another avenue for women and girls to pursue, whether it is competitively or just to get fit and be social, how important is that to yourselves?
Oh, it's massively important. I mean, personally, for me, without sport, I'm not sure what I've done. It's opened up so many avenues for me, whether it's just through playing, through travel. It's done wonders for me. And we've got so many talented young girls on the island that we need to be able to give them the opportunity to see what they can do, and obviously, get them into opportunities over in the UK as well. So we will be looking to try and organise trips for our girls so they can go and see. We're going to go watch some WSL games, and it's just giving them, it's exposure to what they can actually achieve themselves.
And just finally as well, going forward, I suppose, over the next couple of years, what's the immediate plans for the team? How quickly, if at all, are you looking to maybe get yourself a first team set up in the Canada Life Women's League, take part in the cup competitions? What particular plans are there around that?
I think that at the minute, we are aiming for next season, but if that doesn't happen, then that's fine. We will continue with the training, with building up what we have, and we will enter the next year. But I think I'm quite positive, actually. We've got a lot of ex-players that have come back that are really keen to play. But again, it's a slow process, and we just need to build. They need to enjoy it. They need to see that actually it's something they want to do long term. And hopefully we'll get some younger players coming through that we can create a really fantastic team with. But that is the ultimate aim, is definitely to have a team in the league.
That's Donna Harrison, one of the coaches at the newly formed Russian United Football Club senior women's team. And for any players interested in getting involved, players aged 16 and over of all abilities are being invited to take part. Training sessions on Fridays between 5:30pm and 6:30pm at the Colby AFC AstroTurf at Station Fields. Well, Tony, very quickly, just listening to that, there clearly a lot of optimism around setting up this new Russian United women's team. We've spoken with, between ourselves and with others, the debate about the future of women's football on the island, but this just in itself at the moment, how positive a step is it?
Fantastic news, and well done to Donna, and if anyone can drive it, it'll be Donna, because she plays the game. She's played at the highest sort of standard, and well done for getting these girls involved. which is great to see because, women's football, we tweaked a little bit with the format of the competition this year. It's yes and no, but we've got a managers meeting coming up the start of March. Have a little chat with the managers and also the captains, see what we can do. But no, this is a great start for possibly 25-26.
Excellent, Tony. Thank you very much.
Manx Radio Sport.
Well, they ground out a narrow win on their travels 6 days ago. Now, FC Isle of Man's manager is tasking his team with getting a positive result on home soil this weekend in the NWCFL Premier Division. Bonaldswick Town are the latest visitors this Saturday as the Ravens prepare for a big run of home matches between now and the end of the season in mid-April. FC Isle of Man manager Paul Jones says their opponents, who they beat in the reverse fixture early in the season, have plenty of qualities his side will have to be wary of.
It was quite a memorable game. I didn't think we played particularly well that day, and we left it very late to secure the points. We were huffing and puffing a lot that day. Don't feel like we were particularly great. They're a team that have always impressed us just in terms of the quality of the players they've got, but the way they play is everyone knows their roles. They're a really difficult team to break down, and they've got good players in attacking areas that will cause you problems. So we can't take that for granted on Saturday because they're after a strong performance from their midweek beating St Helens. I'm sure they'll be looking forward to carrying that winning streak on when they come to see us on Saturday.
Last weekend, the win over Glossop North End, you talked about the character of the team, even if the performance wasn't necessarily picture perfect. You just went and got the job done. It sounds a bit like that was the case in the reverse fixture against Bonaldswick earlier in the season. So how much character do you think the team's going to have to show to try and get through this test?
Lots, yeah. We're all going to have to show a lot of character for the next 11 games through to the end of the season. We've played some really good stuff this season, but we haven't got enough points on the board relative to the position that we put ourselves in games, and we've got to do better at seeing games through and getting 3 points. That's the next challenge for the group, really. Quite rightly, they get plaudits from me and others in terms of how much they've improved and how much their consistency in terms of performance level has improved this season, but we'll all be judged by the end of the season where we are in the league. So, we'll need a lot of determination and resilience to get over the line, no matter how well we play in terms of silky football. It's very much just about doing what's required to get the 3 points. And if we can also execute an attacking, free-flowing style of football, brilliant. But we've got more than enough in our team to be winning the vast majority of games in this league. And if we really want to take the next step to where we think we're capable of, then that's the next bit that the group needs to do. And, they showed that they're capable of doing that the last few weeks, even the Padiham game where we didn't quite have enough on the day. I've seen lots of that in them and in us, which is really encouraging. So hopefully we can keep that going. And we definitely will need to have that in abundance on Saturday to take some points away from Bonaldswick.
Between now and the end of the season in mid-April, all but one of your remaining games are at home. For you, and I suppose actually more so for the players, how different a test is it at trying to get a result at home compared to being on your travels?
Yeah, I mean, in some ways it could be considered a bit easier in terms of not having to get up so early in the long travel, and there's a bit more kind of routine around it, but at the same time there's lots more distractions as well. So when we're away, we're just all together and we just crack on and we get the job done and come back. When we're at home, there's all sorts of other stuff going on through the day, and from what I gather, the players are really looking forward to this running. One, because we've got so many home games, so it gives them time at home, but also hopefully means that we can find that consistency, we can find that routine of what happens through a Saturday to put us in a really good place to perform by 6 o'clock on a Saturday night. And I certainly think there's a lot of confidence in the group. We traditionally finish strong towards the end of the season, but we can't just expect that to happen again this year. So as far as I can see, the players are really looking forward to that challenge of playing 10 home games almost back to back, and hopefully that brings with it good performances and good results, and we grow a bit of momentum and the crowd starts to build a little bit and it turns into a really exciting end to the season.
And in terms of the squad itself, you still had a couple of players missing for the trip to Glossop. A couple of those, I know Jack Kamadi mentioned, is maybe a couple of weeks out with the injury he picked up in the last home game. But where do you stand in terms of the personnel you've got? Any more players coming back into the fold? Any dropping out?
We should have Kyle available for selection this week. He's trained this week without any problems, so more of a precaution, not taking him away to Glossop on a grass pitch after travelling, just to protect him for another week. We're pretty much there. Boothy's not quite ready yet, and as you say, Jack Kamada's a number of weeks away. So we're in a really strong place in terms of the squad, and I'm going to have to disappoint a couple of people probably. It's where you want to be at this sort of stage of the season, being able to have the majority of the squad fit. So that's again a testament to the coaches and the players players in terms of how well they've managed themselves so far this season and managed the group in terms of training and match days. So as we hit this home run of games with Pritchard, the strongest group that we possibly can, and hopefully that means that we set ourselves up to a strong finish.
FC Alabama manager Paul Jones ahead of his side's clash in the NWCFL Premier Division against Barnoldswick Town tomorrow night at the Bowl in Douglas. And if you're not heading down to the Bowl in person, we at Manx Radio have got you covered. Full live match commentary will be bringing you, myself and Tony Mepham, from 6 p.m. on Manx Radio AM 1368 and DAB on Saturday. Love to have you along. Well, going to bring back Tony in very quickly on this. FC Alabama, they got themselves 3 points late on last weekend, and Paul Jones talked about the character to get that result, even if the performance wasn't, say, picture perfect, for example. How important is it that they kind of keep that character in these last few games of the season, particularly when they've got so many home games coming up?
Yeah, they've got an awful lot of home games coming up, haven't they? And they've just got to keep chipping away, but fair play to them. They sort of didn't sort of accept what was going on. They thought, we've got a good chance in here. And as we were talking about before off air, the players now, there's one or two coming back from injury, and all helps. And this good run of games at home as well just gets the momentum going support wise as well, because there's some big games there coming up, and I know quite a few people from Barnoldswick Town. I work with a few, so we'll just see how they go, and hopefully FC Alaman have a real good performance and a good result, and I can go to work with a smile on my face on Monday.
How do they take advantage of that home advantage maybe going forward? Because they've only got one more away game between now and the end of the season at the start of March as well.
I think certainly playing in front of a big crowd helps, and I know sort of the crowds, with the winter and everything else, sort of dip down a little bit, but just having that home crowd behind you and the support and everything else is brilliant. And also, let's face it, when you're playing at home, you can't hide, so everybody watches the games and has a good conversation after it, just where things have gone right, where things have gone wrong. And it's the travelling as well, sometimes doesn't help, but there's a lot of good players in there, Rob, and they're battling now to start, they're battling to get into the squad, and that can only bode well for Paul Jones.
Indeed, Tony, thank you very much indeed. So yes, just a reminder there, FC Alabama versus Barnoldswick Town, kick-off at the Bowl in Douglas tomorrow night at 6 p.m. If you're not heading down there in person, Manx Radio will be bringing you full live match commentary of FC Alabama versus Barnoldswick Town in the NWCFL Premier Division from 6 p.m. tomorrow on Manx Radio AM 1368 and DAB. Well, that's the footballing side of things. We're going to be taking a look at a busy rugby schedule in the next few minutes. And also, whilst Hockey League action is not taking place this weekend, there is two of the Isle of Man's national sides that will be in action over the next couple of days. We'll be back with that in just a few moments.
Manx Radio Sport.
Welcome back to Friday Sport Preview here on Manx Radio. We're turning our attention to all things rugby now, and after a brilliant weekend for a trio of Manx teams last weekend, Douglas, Vagabonds and Vagabonds Ladies, two of those are back in league action this weekend, with both of them on their travels in the Regional 2 North West and Counties 3 ADM, Lancashire, Cheshire respectively. To go through things, I should say, with us as ever is our rugby correspondent Dave Christian, who joins us live now. So good evening, Dave. We're going to start our attention with taking a look at Douglas in Regional 2 North West. A good win for them last weekend against Eccles. They're on the road this time. How do you rate their chances?
Well, I was sitting back, Rob, looking at the stats and the league table and the fixtures, and all of a sudden I just noticed Douglas have played 17 fixtures, and this is a 22-match league. They've only got 5 games left to the end of the season. It's not quite the end of the season. We're going to have some Manx Cup probably after Douglas finish on the 5th of April, but it's flown very fast. They're 7th place, about mid-table. I'm not sure that's where they wanted to be, but that's where they are. They can't really do too much about that. However, they've still got a good opportunity to potentially grab a 5th place. It may depend on other results now, but I think if things go well for them, certainly a top 6 is on. They're only 2 points behind Altrincham Kersal in the standings. They've played the same number of games. They've got a tricky run in. They've got to play Furwood Waterloo, who are second. I think they also play Bowden and Burnage in those games that are left. But they've also got games Crewe and Nantwich, who are below them in the standings. And I think Wennington Park are also below them in the standings. So they've got chances for points. And with the home form being the way it is, they've got a good possibility of picking up some points at home too. So it's not the end of the world for them. 7th place is pretty good. Tomorrow at Northwich, I don't know, it's kind of difficult. I'm looking again at the stats earlier on in the week. Northwich have played 16 to Douglas's 17, but the points difference, Douglas are just plus 13, Northwich are minus 35. That's pretty close together. There's like 48 points difference between them. Northwich have played one game less as well, so they might pick up something on Douglas. So I think the teams are very evenly matched. And there's a fair chance of a very close game. Team news, I won't do the team. I won't do the team in full at least, but I noticed there have been some changes. We don't have Simon Hoddenot. He's in training for the London Marathon, of all things, for prop forward. So he's not going to be there, but Gerhard Verzagi's in at hooker. Phil Kringle plays himself at loosehead this week. Blake Everson's into the back row. John Dutnell back into the squad again and gets a start. It's looking pretty good. I haven't seen him play yet this season, but Jonty Cope's come back into the team. He's been tearing things up from fullback. And Mark Oldfield back after a little layoff. He comes in onto the bench. So it's a pretty strong lineup for Douglas. They should be able to pick up something away at Northwich. Whether or not that's 1, 2 or 5 points is a different question altogether. I suspect there's probably nobody listening who will be going to the game tomorrow, but if you are, it's a 1:30 kickoff there away at Northwich. Fingers crossed for Douglas.
Well, here is that Douglas squad to take on Northwich at Moss Lane at 1:30pm tomorrow. It is as follows, numbers 1 to 15 in order. It is Phil Kringle, Gerhard Verzagi, Owen Carvin, Connor Garland, the captain, Blake Snell, Blake Everson, John Dutnell, Harry Cartwright, Nathan Robson, Josh Duncan, Kyle Martin, James Ross, Harry Hewson, Callum Dentith and Jonty Cope. And the 3 substitutes for Douglas are Wilf Hewson, Mark Oldfield and Connor Stevens. Well, Dave, one point you did make last week going into this is that 2 of the teams around them, Altrincham, Kersal and Widnes, are due to be facing each other as well. So if Douglas were to get some form of result this weekend on the road at Northwich, even though away wins have been at a premium, how valuable could it prove to be?
Yeah, well, Douglas actually split Altrincham, Kersal and Widnes in the table. Widnes are below them, Altrincham, Kersal above. So you would, fingers crossed, I think the best result for Douglas could be a Widnes win. That would keep Widnes below Douglas and allow them to close on Kersal. On the other hand, probably a draw, very unlikely in rugby union, but a draw would be a good result for them as well. Worst case scenario is a Kersal win, and that means Douglas would have to win against Northwich to maintain the gap. But the permutations are wide and varied. Like I said, a Widnes win. The difficult thing, I guess, about hoping for a Widnes win is the games at Altrincham, Kersal, and statistically, the home teams generally win these matches, so I suspect we're probably not going to see Widnes doing Douglas a favour.
Very well. Let's move on to Vagabonds then. Now, it's a revitalised Vagabonds side who've been in great form in the last couple of games after such a difficult start to the season. They're on their travels this weekend, and on paper at least, this looks like as tough as it can get in Counties 3 ADM Lancashire Cheshire right now. They head to the league leaders, Garstang. Do we see any hope for Vagabonds in this at the moment, Dave?
Frankly, no. I don't want to sound too disheartening for Vagabonds, but Garstang at the top of the table for a very good reason. They've won 13 out of 14. They've got 12 try bonus points in that. They've got 1 losing bonus point as well. They've scored 537 points in their 14 matches, which is over 100 points more than anybody else has managed. They haven't quite got the meanest defence in the league. That's with De La Salle at the moment. They've only conceded 189 points, Garstang 196. But anyway, you look at it, this has got to be a Garstang win. Plus they have home advantage too. Vagabonds, I haven't heard any team news from them yet this week, and that, I guess it causes me a slight concern because I'm just wondering if they're struggling a little bit. We know they've got horrible running of games. They've only played 14 matches so far. It's a 22-match season for them, so they've still got 8 matches to go and not much time left to fit them in. That's put a lot of pressure on them. They've had to play every weekend, and when you've only got a small squad, a couple of injuries have a big effect on it. We know that Archie Benson has got a serious knee injury. He's going to be out for a little while. And Mitch Wells from the front row also picked up a knock that's going to keep him out. Haven't heard anything else from injury news around the squad, but the fact that it's an away match means that they may have players with work commitments who are going to struggle. I know Tom Gascoigne, who's been so important for them this season so far, whether he plays in the back row or out in the centre, Tom may not be able to travel, and that's simply because of his work arrangements. So if they can get Tom on the plane in the morning, that'll be a massive help for them. And we know that front row cover can come from Matt Rockwell, who's normally in at hooker. They've got Will Spurway, who can fill in there. And John Ferguson as well can play either second row or front row. So there's options available for them within the squad. But at this stage of the season, with the run they've had and the run that's yet to come, I suspect they're going to struggle away at Garstang.
Well, as you've been speaking, Dave, Vagabonds have released team news for their trip to the league leaders Garstang tomorrow. It is as follows: John Ferguson, Will Spurway, Matthew Rockwell, Lewis Horton-Casella, Aaron Sloan, Ant Pearson, Matty Jones, Jed Snell, Matty Williams, Cam Finley, Paul Howard, Cal Donnell, and then it's Nathan Wiley, Tom Neeson and Regan Williams. The substitutes, 3 substitutes for Vagabonds. They are Max Ingracia, Ben Roberts and Jake Dunsmore as well. Well, Dave, I know you've painted a pretty stark picture there of maybe how much the odds are against Vagabonds for this one, but how much confidence will they have taken from this recent run of fixtures in which they have picked up some very important points and got them on the board to say, well, actually, no, we are competitive in this league?
Yeah, well, the wins at home, they've won 3 from 14, but all of those have come after Christmas. They had a little barren patch beforehand. That squad's a tight unit. They've been playing together now for 14 matches. They're going to get a feel for each other and what each other can do, and that can only help them improve. But in terms of this season, there's not really too far for them to go, even with 8 wins from their remaining 8 games, and 8 wins with bonus points. They'd still only be second, and everybody else has got games to play as well. So they're a long way behind the pack. If they can get somewhere around mid-table, it would be brilliant. But with 18 points, I think they're going to struggle to finish much higher than 8th, even if they have a string of wins. But you're right, the confidence will be building, and the squad is reasonably good. A good set scrummage, a tight 5 have worked well, and that can produce ball outside them. But I noticed when you read the team out there, I didn't hear Daniel Bonwick's name. He's the captain, and I think Cam Finley coming in probably to cover for him in the 10 jersey. That's going to be Cam's first run in the 10 jersey this season. Hopefully it goes well for him. He's got a great boot on him. That was recognised last week in the game against Duckenfield. I was talking to the Duckenfield bench and they said, I think the exact expression was, the lad's got a great toe. But that's a compliment for Cam Finley. He was kicking off the tee last week. He was very, very good. And he'll help them at 10. But Daniel Bonwick, if he's not available for them, he'll be sadly missed.
Well, that's Douglas and Vagabonds. Let's not forget, though, we do have 3 more games taking place on Ireland tomorrow, and one of those sees the return of the Manx Shield.
Yes, indeed, and about time too. We've had, I think, the Manx Executive Committee, who organise things locally, have got a very difficult job on their hands. They're trying to keep everybody happy, and as always happens, we end up keeping nobody happy. So we've been trying to mix things up to make sure that there's rugby activity available, because the number of fixtures are a little bit limited. But Western Vikings play Ramsey tomorrow at QE2. Kick-off is at 2:15. That will hopefully be our featured game for Saturday Live tomorrow as well. Vikings blowing hot and cold. They had an opportunity to run in the Cheshire Bowl competition, but struggled there. They've struggled to get their teams out. Against Ramsey last time around, I think, off the top of my head, it was pretty close at half-time, 2017 at the Merrick Park. Ramsey ended up running out winners 51-22. So the writing's on the wall, perhaps a little bit for Western Vikings, particularly with players who may have come and helped them out from Douglas Casuals and Southern Nomads, who are playing a friendly, which I'll talk about in a brief moment. But Western Vikings and Ramsey, QE2, 2:15, should be a win for Ramsey on the road. And the two friendly games we have tomorrow, we've got Southern Nomads against Douglas Casuals, Ballakilya Park, Port Erin, 2:15. That'll keep Nomads in running action. They play Ramsey in the Manx Shield next week at the Mirrock Park. We'll probably feature that game there too. Should be a win for Nomads, but Douglas Casuals can put out quite a strong tide. They've got some quality veteran players up there at Portichy, and they can make a big difference on the field. The last friendly game is the Isle of Man Academy under-16s versus Keighley under-16s. That's at the Mirrock Park, 2:30 kickoff for that one. And it should be an interesting match because we're going to be looking at the players of the future. These under-16s now will be playing senior rugby in the season after next. And it should be a good opportunity for everybody to go and see what they can do against a quality club side from Yorkshire, that's Keighley. But that one, Mirrock Park, 2:30 kickoff.
Excellent, Dave. Thank you very much. Dave Christian, our rugby correspondent there. He'll be joining us again on Saturday Live with Paul Moran tomorrow, as well as Full-Time Show and Saturday Sport Classified with Ben Cunningham on Saturday evening too. So just a reminder, if you've missed those ties we've just been talking about there, want to know where and when things are happening, both Douglas and Vagabonds are on the road in their respective games. Douglas on the road in Regional 2 Northwest at Northwich. That is a 1:30pm kickoff at Moss Lane across the water. Meanwhile, Vagabonds with that really tough game against County 3 ADM Lancashire Cheshire League leaders Garstang. That's a 12:30 kickoff in Lancashire tomorrow. The three local games taking place during Saturday. The Manx Shield, Western Vikings versus Ramsey. That'll be taking place at QE2 in Peel. 2:15 kickoff, that one for the Manx Shield match. And then we have two friendlies, one senior, one junior game. The senior game sees Southern Nomads taking on Douglas Casuals at Ballakilya Park. That's also a 2:15 kickoff. And finally, under-16 rugby taking place. Ramsey under-16s against Keighley under-16s from Yorkshire. That game taking place at the Marown Park at 2:30pm tomorrow. When we come back, we'll be taking a look at the hockey action this weekend. Although there is no league action on Ireland this weekend, there are two very important games coming up for two of the Isle of Man's national sides. Back in just a couple of moments.
Manx Radio Sport.
Finally this evening we're going to be taking a look at the hockey side of things, and with the half-term break upon us here on the Isle of Man, that also means a half-term break for the league fixtures and the respective men's and ladies teams across the divisions. Nevertheless though, we will see hockey action taking place both on and off the island throughout Saturday, and it concerns the England Hockey Championships. We've already seen plenty of the Isle of Man senior and junior sides involved in their respective competitions in the England Hockey Championships. Two more in action this weekend. To go through things as ever with us is our hockey correspondent Ben Cunningham. Well, Ben, very good evening. Before we actually get to the fixtures, I actually wanted to talk about a young player from the Isle of Man in hockey that has been making headlines this week. Clearly a rising talent within the sport. Castletown player Archie Cox, who had some great news this week. We were hearing that he'd been selected for the Welsh National Age Groups training squads for 2025 as well. So, again, Ben, we have seen this in the past with young Ireland players making an impression in the systems in the UK and further afield, but to see another coming through the ranks as well, it's really encouraging, isn't it?
It's really good, and I mean, the last two Castletown games which we've covered, Archie Cox has been on the score sheet, so he really has lived up to his standards, and we just wish him all the best of luck. But like you say, again, another player from the Isle of Man reaching the heights of the UK. To name a few that have done it before, the likes of Sienna Dunn. You've got Ella Blakemore as well, who's coming through at the minute with the senior ladies. She's also going to be playing this weekend in the games we're going to talk about. But yeah, great news for Archie Cox, and yeah, we can only wish him all the best.
In terms of the island sides, if we're looking at the national teams, if you like, he's already represented the island. The Isle of Man boys squads at under 14, under 16, and under 18 level, and he actually moved into the men's senior team, made his debut there during the latest county championships as well. And it's credit to the system here on the Isle of Man, is it not, that young players like Archie and many others, you've named already a couple there, that have come through the systems or are going through the systems, getting the opportunities to test themselves at these levels.
Absolutely, and you've hit the nail right on the head there, Rob. It's testament to the coaching and to everything that goes on behind the scenes in the Manx Hockey Association to give these players the opportunities to go out and prove themselves, and it's just testament to all the coaches in all the clubs and all the coaches that give up their time as well for helping with the island teams.
Absolutely. So congratulations there to Archie Cox. If you're listening out there, all the best for the coming season, both on Ireland and further afield. Let's turn our attention then to the two matches taking place that concern Isle of Man sides this weekend. Both the Isle of Man Senior Ladies B team and Isle of Man Senior Men's B team are in action in the England Hockey Tier 3 plate competitions, ladies and men's competitions respectively. Let's start with the earlier pushback that's going to be taking place on the Isle of Man. So a rare England Hockey Championship game on the Isle of Man. The Isle of Man Ladies B, they'll be facing Northallerton first 11, 12:30pm at the NSC in Douglas tomorrow, Ben.
Yeah, it's going to be a massive game, that. And if you're really looking for something to do tomorrow afternoon, please do get on down to the NSC, which is going to be an absolute... the atmosphere down there is going to be electric, definitely. With no fixtures being on in the leagues, there'll be plenty of support down there for the Island Ladies B team. It's going to be a tough game for them, definitely, but one that they can definitely get something out of, and the squad looks really good. Jamie Brown, the coach, and Kim Carney have really selected a variety of players from not just certain clubs, from all clubs on the island, which is great to see that there's a massive influx of players coming from all different clubs.
We'll go through the squad in just a moment, but also it has been a while since this team last played together. You have to go all the way back to October, in fact, when they were in the England Hockey Tier 3 Knockout Championship, so the competition the tier above. A 2-0 defeat to Liverpool's Sefton Seconds that day. They were due to play on the 14th of December 2024, but they were awarded a home walkover against Sheffield Seconds, so it's been quite a few months that they haven't played as a group.
Yeah, but then when you think about it, they'll obviously have been training together during the week as well. And then, of course, at the weekends, they have been playing against each other. So it's made things interesting in the league. But as for training as a group, I'm sure that they've been putting in the hours down on the hockey pitch during the week to get that training. One thing I forgot to mention as well is we're really over the moon to be providing both umpires from the Manx Hockey Association for this game, and they are Elliot Reid and Elliot Butler, who are going to be umpiring this game, with Peter Foxton and John Whiting going to be the Hockey Umpiring Association officials.
Excellent. So if you do want to support the local hockey tomorrow, the Isle of Man Ladies be against Northallerton first. The squad for that game, 12:30pm at the NSC in Douglas, is as follows. There are 4 players in the side from backers. They are Lucy Quine, Lucy Cartwright, Kate Lace and Emma Corty. 1 from Castletown is Evie Watterson. And then we have 5 here from Harlequins. Ella Blakemore, the captain, Emily Middleton, Rebecca Ormisher, Rachel Middleton and Macy Crellin. Then there's 2 from Valkyries out in the west, Emily Kelly, and then the goalkeeper, Robin Stones. And then 4 representatives from Vikings. They are Jess Birch, Cara Yule, Clodagh Nealon and Morven Smith as well. And finally tonight, taking a look at the Isle of Man men's B-side in the exact parallel, I guess, of the women's competition, the men's England Hockey Tier 3 plate competition. They're away from home. They're in Lancashire, 3:30pm pushback. They're taking on Garstang first, Ben.
Yeah, again, another tough game, except for the men. It's going to be across away from home soil, so we really do wish them all the best of luck. Neil Crow, the coach of this team, has again selected a wide variety of players from all different clubs, which is great to see, and a lot of young and up-and-coming talents as well in the squad for this game.
And just looking at, again, a bit of a similar situation to the ladies' B team. In fact, they started in the men's England Hockey Tier 3 Knockout Championship in the tier above. They did lose out to West Bridgeford Seconds back in December last year, but that was a 2-1 penalty shootout defeat after a 1-1 draw in regular time. So do you think they might fancy themselves being competitive in this one?
Absolutely, and I mean, if I can remember rightly, the player of the match was named as the island's goalkeeper, which was June Belando, and it's great to see that June Belando is keeping his spot in this squad for this game going across. So definitely they're going to be up for it. If they only just lost out last time on Flicks, it's going to be a tasty game, definitely.
Well, here is that Isle of Man men's B squad to face Garstang first tomorrow in the men's England Hockey Tier 3 plate, 3:30pm in Garstang. 2 players from backers in the squad. They are Rhys Williams and Tom Lothian. And then there are 3 representatives from Castletown. They are George Powell, Stephen Ronan and Corbin Stewart. One of those representatives from Harlequins, and that's Liam Taverner. From Valkyries, Ethan Adams, and the aforementioned goalkeeper, June Belando as well. Also as well, Kieran Gell, Craig Killier and Tom Titsos as well from Valkyries. And then there are 4 representatives from Vikings. They are Ben Dougal, Josh Dougal, Carl Gunyon, and the captain, John Verrill, as well. Well, Ben, just to finally wrap things up, for those who haven't seen, if you're a fan of hockey, whether it is in a competitive or social side of things, these are rare occasions seeing England's Hockey Championship games taking place on the Isle of Man. What's the atmosphere like for those who've never been to one?
Oh, it's massive. It's completely different to what you would see on a normal Saturday. Like I said, with there being no league fixtures on this weekend, I'm sure there'll be plenty of support down there, because obviously you've got players from all different clubs on the island being representative, so there'll be definitely a lot of support from all club members for all players representing the island team from their clubs, and we just wish them all the best of luck, and we really hope that they can come back with the goods.
And just very quickly, I know you like to do this sometimes, you make your predictions on league games. Can you make any predictions on these ones, or is it a difficult one given how little sometimes we know about the opposition?
I want to say that both will come back with wins. I really would love to see both come back with wins.
Excellent. Well, Ben, thank you very much. And thank you as well for joining us here on Friday Sport Preview this evening. Many thanks to our guests this week, Tony Mepham, Donna Harrison, Paul Jones, Dave Christian and Ben Cunningham as well. And don't forget, if you want to catch up with any of the sports news from throughout this week and even further beyond, head on over to the Manx Radio Sports Hub at manxradio.com. Have yourself a wonderful Friday evening, whatever you're doing, and have yourself a wonderful weekend as well. But from us, until next time, it is bye for now.
Manx Radio Sport.